This will be Jeannie Seely's last appearance on the Grand Ole Opry. On the Grand Ole Opry stage, Jeannie Seely smiled for 60 years. She played more than 5,000 times and became a star in country music. Jessie Seely, a famous singer who won a Grammy, has died. But she finally told the truth before she died in 2025. In her most recent interview, she talked about the 10 times she almost quit because of the bad customs. There were pay gaps, threats, and scandals from the 1960s that were buried deep. She talked about the powerful guys who ran everything. She even left behind letters that were sealed and made very dangerous promises. You'll be shocked by what Jeannie told you about the Opry. The story of Jeannie Seely starts in a small living room in Titusville. There was a big Philco radio in the room, which looked like the heart of the home. The radio she had was from the 1940s and cost about $150, which is about $2,000 today. Her family treasured it. When Jeannie was 4, she first got on her toes to reach the phone. She would keep turning it until she found the Grand Ole Opry on WSM 650 Nashville. The sound stuffed the whole house. Every Saturday night, it was the same thing. They sat close to her. She sat really close. She took in every sound, every voice, every fiddle, and every cheer. By the time she was 11, those nights had changed her so much that she went into a radio station and made it her own stage. She made her first show on WMGWB, DW in Meadville. It was a Saturday morning show that people from all over Northwest Pennsylvania tuned in to hear. She was so little that Jeannie had to stand on wooden soda crates to get to the mic. But when she sang versions of Hank Williams songs, her voice cut through the crackling radio like it belonged there. Being a child in 1951, she made a lot of money, $5 for each show. It helped her get school materials and made her feel proud of her independence. The station soon called her the little girl who sings while standing on crates. Some people came from very far away to see her live. By age 14, she had a small group of fans and was becoming more sure that singing was her calling. However, school was not easy for her. She was made fun of as Hillbilly Jeannie by the time she was 13. The kids made fun of her thrift store clothes and the fact that her family was poor. Everyone else liked early rock or pop music, but she liked country music. In spite of this, she kept finding strong spots. She joined the band. She played the banjo at home while her dad watched and cheered her on. She did well in school and even made the cheering team because she worked hard. To save money for her first guitar, she sang at county fairs. It was worth about $60 back then, but it's worth over $600 now. No one at school knew how serious her music life was when she finished in 1958. She was already becoming stronger because of her grit. At age 16, she made her first appearance on TV at WICU TV in Erie. She didn't try to copy popular songs. She instead wrote songs about life in the country and sang truthfully about what she knew. It helped her stand out. Local stations picked her up. Talent hunters did the same. In the late 1950s, about 15,000 people watched WICU every day, and many of them started calling in just to hear that girl who wrote her own songs. Soon, she was singing at school events and outdoor shows, and her name became known in the area. Seeing those early TV shows made her want bigger things, and by the time she was 21, she was ready to leave Pennsylvania. Her first job after high school, in 1958, was as a stenographer at Titusville Trust Company. She picked up the job quickly and is now the auditor's secretary at the bank. She took business finance classes at night through the Oil City branch of the American Institute of Banking. The lessons helped her learn about law, money, and accounting. In the future, they also got her into business groups for life. She said those lessons helped her a lot when things were hard in the singing business. When each agreement and number were important. She didn't have a college degree, but she learned on her own right there. In 1961, when she was 21, she drove her MGA Roadster from Pennsylvania to Los Angeles by herself. The rest of her things were sent with just the words, General Delivery, Los Angeles, written on the box. The first job she had was as a banker in Beverly Hills. After a year, she quit because music kept calling her. She took a job as a secretary at Liberty and Imperial Records for half the pay just to be near the studios and songs. She began to write for four-star songs and appear on the TV show Hollywood Jamboree. There, she met Glenn Campbell before he became famous. She did a lot of shows with him, which made her feel better about herself even though many record companies thought she was too country for pop radio. She kept going anyway, singing in clubs and writing songs late into the night. At Liberty Records in 1963, she co-wrote the song Anyone Who Knows What Love Is. She got the idea from an underwear ad. Anyone who knows comfort is. She stayed after work to play the piano, but she was having trouble with the tune until Randy Newman, who was 19 years old, walked in and helped her move the chords around. They both sang the last part of the song. It was cut by Irma Thomas in 1964 and became an R&B hit. Newman and Jeannie didn't get credit for the song at first, but it kept coming back through covers and movie scores. In the end, Jeannie called it a miracle because it kept giving her hope and income for decades. During this time, she kept singing on the TV show Hollywood Jamboree, and she and Glenn Campbell often shared the stage. Some of the first times people saw him on national TV were during these events. One night Jeannie sang in small rooms, and the next night she did it in smoky clubs. She was getting better at being on stage little by little. Producers kept telling her she wasn't in style with pop music, but she didn't listen. After a hard time in Los Angeles, she was even more determined to find a place where her voice could be heard. Nashville turned out to be that place. In 1964, she signed with Challenge Records and went to RCA Studio B to record Am I That Easy to Forget? The single didn't do well, even though the song and studio were famous. To stay alive, she kept playing rough Hollywood clubs. She had to deal with unwanted advances and broken promises from directors, but each show made her stronger. West and Hank Cochran were among the people who told her she needed Nashville. That's right. She only had $50 and a Ford Falcon when she got to Nashville in the fall of 1965. She rented a cheap room, worked as a waitress for $50 a week, and did free shows singing at places like Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. Within a month, Porter Wagoner hired her to take over for Norma Jean on his TV show and road show. It was her first real step toward becoming a country music star. Late in 1965, Monument Records hired her and they recorded Don't Touch Me. In February 1966, the session turned dramatic when she and producer Fred Foster got into a heated argument over the speed. She wanted to feel. He wanted power. She did her vocals in one take after a tense fight. It came out in March. It was #1 on Cashbox and Record World for more than 5 months. It got to number 29 on Adult Contemporary and number 85 on the Billboard Hot 100. Radio was shocked by the song because it talked about desire from a woman's point of view. The country world was shocked by how honest he was. She won the Grammy for Best Country Vocal Performance by herself for the first time in 1967, making history. As she had promised, she bought her first house with the $1,000 prize money. But people didn't like the win. Some DJs who are religious wouldn't play her songs. They said she was too hot for women. To fight back, she wouldn't follow the strict dress code at the Grand Ole Opry. One time, she appeared in a miniskirt, showing that she was in charge of her own image. Because she was brave, she helped other women in the industry get jobs. That fight she had with Fred Foster while they were recording Don't Touch Me became part of music history. She thought the song needed to be honest instead of put together. He wanted it to be slower. It got heated, but she stood her ground and recorded her voice in one take. Everyone heard that take. Not only did it change her, but it also changed the business. She put on more than 200 shows in 1966. One show in Louisiana stood out in a big way. Some people in the crowd got mad at the song's sexy words. A few people even threw bottles at her. She didn't give up, she finished the show. People called her Miss Country Soul after that night. It showed her fire, her voice, and her strength to stay strong even when people pushed her. Changes were also being seen in country music. She was right in the middle of it all. The Grand Ole Opry stage saw Jeannie Seely for the first time on September 16, 1967. The room seemed to stop moving for a moment. She had on a bright red miniskirt. It was short and fun, but it was also against the Opry's tight rules that said women should wear long gingham dresses. It was something no one in Nashville had ever seen before. A frustrated Ernest Tubb said from the side of the stage, "They don't wear those dresses on the Opry." That one line made news across the country. Fans rushed to see the woman who was brave enough to breach the dress code, and within days, other female artists began to try out shorter hemlines. What she wore became more than just a fashion trend. It was the spark that changed country music into something new. When she performed "Don't Touch Me" for the first time, it got 3,000 fans and made her a star right away. Whispers cut deep behind the scenes, though. Said under their breath that she was too modern, too brave, and too different. People even sent her threats telling her to follow the rules. She didn't give up, she went even further. Her next clothes were more daring. Her steps were stronger. Other women followed her lead because she was sure of herself. She was brave, and Loretta Lynn later told everyone how proud she was of her. It showed them all how to stand strong when people were trying to break them down. She didn't stop being brave at close. She did more than 100 shows in the first few months after joining the Opry, but she only got $50 per show. Men made twice as much. In 1968, she finally said it out loud in a radio interview, calling it sexist theft. Women rarely spoke out against the system in that way. She didn't stop when she was pushed back quickly. What she said sparked thoughts that led to bigger discussions about fairness in country music. It was around the same time that tabloids spread rumors of an affair between her and Hank Cochran, and they made duets like "That's All That Matters." She was worn out by the talking, which made her feel worse. As the storm passed, people left and said goodbye. A song that is full of pain and quiet truth. Many people loved it because they could hear the pain inside it. She turned stress into art because that was the only way she knew how to move forward. There was a moment that almost put an end to everything. In 1968, "A Wandering Man," her second record, got to number 4 on the charts. But while on a national tour, she was in a bus accident that almost killed her. She couldn't sing for 3 months because her vocal cords were hurt so badly. She lied about getting hurt because she was afraid that telling anyone would hurt her job. She kept going through treatment and pain every day until she got her voice back. She felt like she had to win the comeback fight in silence. And her strength was one of the most powerful parts of her story. In June 1969, after a year, she married Hank Cochran. It only cost $200 to get married in Renfro Valley. Fans thought there would be love and music, but things got rough in the marriage. They kept getting separated by Cochran's drinking and long trips. The fights got worse, and the gaps got bigger. They always came home to the trouble. She said that he helped her grow as an artist, even though things were crazy. She named her 1967 record, "Thanks Hank," after him. But the fights went on for years, and after more than 10 years of stress, they finally got a divorce in 1981. "Wish We Were in Love Again," a 1970 duet record, was made with Jack Green. Their number 2 song, "Wish I Didn't Have to Miss You," made them one of the most popular groups of the year. Still, trouble was after her. Promoters pushed Green to tour more while putting her on the back burner. Even though they were both in the news, she made less than half of what he did. It made them fight, but not so much that they stopped being friends. Instead, it showed how deeply unfair the business world was to women at that time. In 1973, the fighting went on. When she made the song, "Can I Sleep in Your Arms?" Hank Cochran changed it from a folk song, and the words were very honest about being divorced and alone. While it was at number 6 on the Billboard Hot Country list for 18 weeks, it caused a lot of trouble everywhere. It was deemed immoral by some stations, which shut it down. The song still went a long way. In Canada, it even made it to number 4. It was her last number 1 solo song, and the way it mixed honesty and bravery made it memorable. A year before, she had been through a secret breakup. She had a loss in 1972, but she didn't tell anyone because she was afraid the business world would think she was weak. "Tell Me Dream Maker" was the song she wrote about her sadness, and it went to number 15. It turned into a quiet song for people who had lost something important. Her voice showed both her pain and her strength. It made people really feel. She had put out 6 albums and 10 top 40 songs by 1975. In the same year, she held her first unofficial Opry item. It was never okay for women to host. When the boss tried to hide behind tradition, she told him that it smelled like bias, and it worked. Soon, she was one of the first women to host the Opry, a job that many women went on to do after her. But again, life hit her hard. She hit a tree with her Cadillac on I-40 in June 1977. She was only 35 years old. She went to Nashville Memorial Hospital with a broken mouth, ribs, and a lung puncture. She was in pain for days and had to have surgery right away. The tour ended. The money stopped coming in. She didn't tell her label about the worst of her injuries because she was afraid they would drop her. That was $5,000 she spent on therapy. And fought right-hand numbness for a short time. She had to learn how to play the guitar all over again. Everything was broken after the accident, even her marriage. There were public fights, including one in 1979 at the Opry. When the split was over in 1981, she left with emotional scars that took a long time to heal. After Your Message Didn't Work, MCA dropped her in 1978. When she tried acting, she got hit again. The guy C********S who worked with her made $500 a day. For the same work, she only got $200. Because she felt wronged, she quit acting and focused on live shows, where she could make her own decisions. It was hard for her to deal with her family. In 1969, she became Cochran's stepmother to his 3 boys. After their parents split up, she worked quietly to keep them stable. That's right, she sent them to private schools while she was fighting for alimony. She never wanted real children because she thought being a mom would make it harder for her to work. Her love for her stepchildren stayed quiet but strong. It was only about 50 shows a year for her by 1980. She was depressed because of the accident, the breakup, and all the stress. Broken Bridge was her attempt to make a comeback, but it didn't do well. Some people in the business thought that women over 40 shouldn't be in the spotlight. The fact that no one spoke after she was freed proved it. She didn't stop acting even after that. There was more power in her spirit than in the numbers. When she finally became the first woman to host the Opry in 1982, things changed again. Loretta Lynn was on her first night, and the number of watchers went up by 20%. She changed how people saw the show and showed women everywhere that they should have the same rights as men. In 1985, she started Jeannie's House, a show on the Opry where she helped new acts. She talked about her problems, her stories, and the times she wore a miniskirt that almost cost her her job. She also taught young women how to stand strong when everyone else tried to push them aside. It turned into a safe spot full of truth and strength. In the 1990s, her fire was still going strong. She put out I'm Still Jeannie in 1991. The song Weekend got to number 25 and showed some of Nashville's party issues. Being Honest almost got her put on a ban, but she wouldn't give up. The record showed that she was still brave. She also found peace in her personal life. She married Gene Ward in 1985 after getting divorced from Cochran in 1981. They have a net worth of $2 million thanks to Opry income and smart investments. She didn't tell anyone about his health problems and focused on keeping their life steady and quiet. She had been on the Opry more than 3,000 times by 1999. In an interview that same year, she said that women at the Opry were making 30% less than men. The statement made people change almost right away. More money, more fair praise, and more clear rights. The Opry moved into a new age with her voice again. That CMA stage in 2003 was where Jeannie Seely sang. Her voice echoed through 50 years of country music. The crowd waited for a moment while she held the Irving Waugh Award and gave a nice, safe speech. She instead shocked everyone. There were things about the Opry that made her think about leaving almost 10 times, she said. And the old rules that put women in tight spots. What she said hurt a lot. Most artists don't talk about their problems because they're afraid of what might happen next. But Jeannie told it like it was, and it stopped the room in its tracks. She let everyone see how much she had been through. That night, younger artists felt like something changed. They knew that even legends have bad days, and her bravery made them feel like they could talk about what they had been through in quiet. Years later, she talked about the same truth on her Sirius XM show. People finally said what they had been keeping in for decades when they were with Seely on Sundays. The talks she did were friendly and brave. Dolly Parton talked about being harassed and beaten up in the 1970s in one show. She had never talked about it in public before. Every week, more than 1 million people tuned in. A huge number for a country station that usually didn't talk about the more serious stories in the business. Jeannie made a place where women could talk without fear of being judged, and that changed how music fans saw the world they loved. Then 2015 came along. Jeannie was 75 years old and about to put out her album Life's Highway. Her label didn't trust her. They told her that the themes of getting older and being strong were too risky and too soft for sales. She kept going anyway. The record made it to number 40 on the country charts, and her fans loved it. Opry Forever was a song that held a secret for her. In 2016, she had pneumonia that almost killed her and stopped her career. She had to fight through weakness and fear to record anyway. Fans from the past found comfort in how honest she was, and new artists saw what real power looked like. By 2023, her life's work was easy to see. She had been on stage at the Grand Ole Opry 5,197 times. In its 100-year history, no one had ever hit that number. She talked about the Opry as both a safe place and a trap. It was a place she loved very much, but it also asked a lot of her. To stay true to that stage, she gave up relationships, time, and her own health. She went back every night because it was the only place that made her feel truly alive. In 2025, she was getting closer to the end of her story. She died on August 1 at the age of 85, after having problems with an intestinal illness. She was in intensive care for 11 days after having surgery on her back and stomach earlier that year. She was tired, and having bronchitis made things even worse. Her husband, Eugene Ward, had died in December 2024, which was already hard for her. He died of cancer when he was 92, and Jeannie never got over how sad that was. Their Nashville home was sold for $1.5 million, but she kept his gear from the Opry. They were her ghosts of glory, she said. When the house was too quiet, they helped her feel close to him. There were stories in her personal life that didn't come up for years. She never had real children because travel in the 1960s made her feel too risky to have kids. But she really cared about her 4 stepchildren. In the 1980s, she had a very bad custody battle with her first husband, Hank Cochran. She hired a lawyer and paid $10,000 just to keep her place in their lives safe. She was tired, but she never left them. She also had scars on her body. After a bad car crash in 1977, she had back pain that wouldn't go away for decades. In 2025, she had several surgeries to try to fix her spine. After each one, she had to do a lot of rehab work. Experts say that having a lot of surgeries at that age can make a person weak very quickly. That's what happened to Jeannie. Even so, she kept recording and running her show. Even though she was having trouble standing, she tried to give her fans something important. The public never got a full picture of the dark sides of her life off stage. In the 1980s, a powerful director put her on a secret blacklist after she turned down his advances. She lost gigs and almost ended her career because of that man's impact. In the early 2000s, she wrote rough drafts of a book about the event, but kept the specific secret. She wanted people to remember the truth without making the pain worse. Being quiet was brave of her in its own way. She talked about the decisions that made her life what it was in her last interviews. She told them that she turned down bigger fame because she was loyal to the Opry. It hurt her sometimes. Along the way, she lost friends and spread stories about herself that were not true. The myth about abortions in the 1970s was one of the hardest. Even though she said it wasn't true, she did say that it hurt her image and stuck with her for years. The business world remembered things for a long time, and they weren't always nice. After she died, on August 17, the Opry held a tribute. The room was full of more than 5,000 people. The crowd got up and cheered when Dolly Parton led a tribute. They gave awards to the woman who was the first woman to host regular Opry parts and to the artist who had done the most Opry nights ever. There were stories, tears, and cheers that went on late into the night at the funeral, which felt like the last act. In 2025, she was worth between $1.4 million and $5 million. It came from earnings, writing songs, putting on shows for decades, and a pension she had worked hard for years. She gave some of her money to help young women artists get awards. They should have chances that she never had. But there was something else too. Friends said she left behind letters that were not sealed and were full of claims about old crimes and corruption from the 1960s. There isn't anything out in full yet. Fans and history buffs still have to wait. I was curious about what facts she stuck to until the end. Her influence hit a new high point. The Country Music Hall of Fame was going to honor her in early 2026. It was an honor that her fans had asked for. A lot of people thought about what she said last. She told them. She did everything she could so they would remember the real her. They do. After she died, notes that had not been released showed something she had kept secret since the 1970s. She felt bad that she didn't sue for discrimination when she should have. She thought that the bias against women cost her at least $500,000. She told up-and-coming country artists to fight the gingham ghosts, which are the old rules and silent hurdles that are still there. People who had been quiet before came out in public to talk about her notes.